La 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 la. Yo, what's the deal, nigga?
Spies in disguise. After a long break since Ferdinand and going through the whole Disney-Fox deal where now the studio finds itself under Disney's umbrella, Blue Sky has returned with some new gadgets up its sleeve with the help of Will Smith and Tom Holland. Not much is known about how this film was brought to life, but the only piece of information found since its release was that the movie is based on a 2009 animated short called Pigeon Impossible by Lucas Martel. If I may give my take on it for a moment, for an independently funded short, it's okay, I guess. It's a straightforward cartoon about a secret agent and a pigeon trying to outsmart each other with a high-tech briefcase. It has its cool, creative moments, but nothing really memorable about it. But even if it doesn't follow the exact formula as the short, the idea of spies and pigeons seemed to be more than enough material to develop an entirely new animated feature. Although I will admit that I am a little concerned about having another animated film based on a short. Let's just say that the last time it happened, it ended up badly and resulted in a couple of nut jobs. But now that it's time to start the mission on investigating this movie, will it result in a successful operation? Or will the movie just be pooping everywhere like a real pigeon? Let's find out. The story. I'm sure the filmmakers were quite excited to develop an action-packed spy movie where they could fully let out their imagination and have no limits with the medium of animation. However, during all that excitement to make an epic spy movie, it's noticeable how there was little attention given to craft an interesting story. I might as well start off with the movie's biggest weak point, the writing. Yes, it does often bring out some fun moments with the action to keep audiences interested, but when the film has to settle down and be an actual movie that tells a story, it immediately becomes uninspiring and dull due to the complete unoriginality that makes it tediously predictable right from the start. And if that's not enough, the feature also sprinkles itself with overused cliches, humor that can have a few decent laughs but mostly fall flat, and an obnoxious message of teamwork and anti-violence. Because if there's one thing you have to know if you ever want to see this, be prepared to get aggressively hammered in with the preaching of pacifism.
Kind of a personal protection device I've been developing.
This is a vile waste of taxpayer dollars.
But technically, that's just the spy and human elements of the movie. There is also another aspect that's a main selling point where Will Smith transforms into a pigeon. Maybe that can help salvage some of the flaws, right? Well, at first, it seems like it had the chance, especially by letting Will Smith delivering his comedy and his own brand of charm, but by thinking about it as a whole, it ends up adding an additional problem that makes things worse for the writing. Now, I'm not saying that this movie intentionally made itself as a complete ripoff, but there's just too many elements that are similar to Disney's The Emperor's New Groove. I know it doesn't look like it at first with its different setting and theme, but it's hard to ignore the parallels of an animated film with a very cocky and self-centered lead that's on top of the food chain of where he is that suddenly turns himself into an animal because of a scientifically crafted potion. So now he has to team up with this peaceful nobody in a big chase so that he can turn back into a human while also growing a heart and bonding with the nobody in the process. Again, I don't believe this intentionally copied New Groove, and there have been other movies with similar plot lines, but the point is to present what little creativity can be found here. It is true that most people don't watch spy stories for some compelling narrative, and it does deliver on the spy stuff, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't put in at least some effort. The animation. Okay, to be fair, I'm not saying that there is literally no creativity found in this movie. It's just that most, if not all of its focus is set primarily onto the animation, and to the movie's credit, it does work to its advantage. At the very least, what some audiences look for in a spy movie is some cool action and chase scenes with loads of unique gadgets, and this movie delivers plenty. The action has a good balance of intensity, fast pace, originality, and a little bit of humor in order to keep audiences engaged with the picture, while the gadgets, mainly supplied by Walter, is what helps to additionally make those moments fun and family friendly, where the kids watching will get a good kick out of what Walter can think of next to help Lance out of a sticky situation. Another advantage to Walter's inventions is that they serve as a good contrast to the villain's machinery, where one is more playful, soft, and colorful, while the other is all monochrome, sharp, and made to look like it can inflict either pain or death. But in order to make those action scenes enjoyable, the animators had to develop some solid character animation to show the characters in action that can keep up with the fast pace and expressive movements, and I might as well add in what I guess I'll call it the pigeon animation that plays a big role in the creativity to present some of the scenes literally in a bird's eye view and find different ways to have the pigeons involved in the chases and battles. But through the moments that make the film visually pleasing, there are also a few things that are worth criticizing. Nothing major, but just a few small elements that could have been adjusted to truly stand out. One is that the character designs have mixed results. There are some that work well with a cartoony and angular aesthetic, while others look more discomfortingly distorted. That, and while this may be a film that goes around the globe to save the world, the backgrounds aren't much inspiring to look at, and they seem more like they're built not to be immersive, but just to be the layouts for the action. While not necessarily the strongest visuals, at least the animation gives the movie the wings to somewhat fly and not fall straight down. The characters. It's honestly hard to feel any form of emotions towards the characters due to how this is essentially a cast of overused tropes, even feeling the negative ones. Often it can be frustrating to see characters doing the same shtick that's been done countless of times in other movies. But with this script's blatant unoriginality, their cliched personalities are a lot more tiresome than anything that ends up removing any form of emotional investment onto whatever would happen to them. Lance Sterling is the world's best spy that's so full of himself where he has to learn the importance of teamwork and peace by turning into a pigeon. Walter is the lanky, wide-eyed, big-nosed, socially awkward young lad who wants to be taken seriously by his peers, because animated films can't get enough of those, apparently. Marcy is the secret agent that thinks Lance is the bad guy, accompanied by her assistants, Eyes and Ears, and Killian, who had the potential to be an interesting and threatening villain with some great build-up and presentation of what he can do, but his reasons to why he's evil threw those chances away and end up making him just another bad guy from a kid's flick. It is unfortunate how there's so much of a cookie-cutter trope to the point that it makes it tough to feel anything for these characters. Even when it tries to give more layers to either Lance or Walter, they also feel recycled and boring. With such a stale group of characters, would there be a way to at least treat the wound somewhat? Well, there is one thing, depending on who it is. The only saving grace from the cast is that they do have some good actors that deliver some solid performances. Like I said before, it mostly lets Will Smith be his family-friendly self by presenting a lot of his signature charm and comedy that does help make Lance a bit more likable because, at the very least, it can be fun watching a cartoon Will Smith pigeon be Will Smith.
You better unbird me right now. That's it, I'm not playing with you. Unbird! I'm raising my voice. I probably shouldn't be raising my voice at you.
The other actors did a great job on their parts as well, like Tom Holland, Rashida Jones, and Ben Mendelsohn, but they don't have that freedom of being themselves like Will did. So, while good, they're not enough to make their characters memorable. And you know that's a serious problem when the pigeons that don't talk do a better job at being likable than the ones who have talented actors attached to them. I'm sure the actors who played them cared about their respected characters to have them be as enjoyable as possible, but it's obvious that the movie itself certainly doesn't. Like the duo of Lance and Walter, Spies in Disguise is an entirely mixed bag that presents two contrasting sides that have to collaborate in order to complete their mission of presenting this movie. On one hand, the movie can be fun with great animation that carries a lot of cool and unique gadgets, engaging action scenes, and Will Smith giving a charming performance in the way that only he can. But on the other hand, it is terribly written with a dreadfully unoriginal story, fueled by overused cliches to become entirely predictable, and a cast of blatant and banal characters. There is some legitimate substance that can be found here, but there's just so little of it that makes the film hard to be overall enjoyable. I would recommend to watch The Emperor's New Groove instead, since it's the same thing but better, but I also think it can be worth a watch for kids and major Will Smith fans. Those are the ones that will probably get the most out of this. The movie barely offered much, but then again, what else would you expect out of something that just wants to turn Will Smith into a pigeon?
Really?